Welcome to Ellie Goldsmith's Relationship Flow. We are in the intimacy series. Thank God this is moving ahead in a positive direction, which is in itself a big achievement for our generation, to keep all our media content, everything public, positive and focused on our mission, which I've explained to many people on my different podcasts. Unity Flow podcast is our future podcast about our United Souls mission, bringing together souls, especially in the intimate level with relationships. There's never a place that's more important than that. In terms of humanity, the most profound place where we see united souls manifest is in the relationship flow, and it will be with that intimacy that we all aspire for, hopefully, in our relationships, and that obviously means on all the different levels, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Today we're going to mention really interesting focus. We talked about last week about being emotionally supportive. Definitely a tough one for me personally, but very important and necessary. Today we're going to talk about being financially supportive. Now, obviously, everybody's going to have their own financial situation, just as with emotional issues as well. It's going to be the same kind of personal focus. So I can only say what I know, and based on principles that are thank God, universal and true, foundational principles in relationships, especially with intimacy, that finances is definitely a big part of marriage, of relationship, and it's something which a person has to try be on top of and be responsible in all the normal accepted, well, I don't know what's accepted nowadays, but normal in the sense of what we know to be true, that a person takes responsibility. For example, if you get married, you take responsibility to be supportive to the other person. So in the case of a man, he in the Jewish tradition, we take on a ksuba, responsibility to support and clothe and be there in intimate sense, and to support the children as well. There's part of the responsibility of marriage. We all sort of understand that, as when we go under the chuppah, it's not just now pleasure fest, God forbid, but it's now an opportunity to be a giver, to be a provider, to be godly, to emanate and emulate our godly powers, that we have the ability to give and care and be kind. And thank God, on a real level, this is something which I'm working on. Obviously being married for almost 20 years, I'm really trying to achieve that. One of the amazing advice I got from being around Rav Shalom Arush, and also my Rebbe, the Tolner Rebbe in Jerusalem, is the importance of really providing that love and care for your wife in a non-stingy manner. So that would be, I suppose, if you want to talk for both man and woman, it would be basically being a giver, but in a way that you're not holding back to the other person. If they need something, as Rabbi Jacobson explained, any need of a person that's really a deep need is a godly need, is a need that God himself will provide for. The universal powers that be will make sure that you get that thing, as long as you open that scene or that pipeline for that thing. So, for example, my wife right now, my soulmate, and we'll put that as the as the picture for this podcast episode, the cover pic, that she, thank God, passed her driving test last week, and thankfully I was able to provide the funds to be able to pay for all the lessons, and now the car rental, which has been such an amazing blessing. We were able to get to a wedding, we were able to see my brother-in-law, and in Modin we were able to get all around different mitzvahs and do things that we wouldn't usually do. We had fun with the car, drove and picked up all the different kids from schools and took them around to their places, and it's been something really positive, and hopefully we're going to end off this week with the rental to going to the beach. And so funny enough, just as I said, disconnect, to reconnect, then I got a phone call, and it actually perfectly flowed, as everything does, into this next part of the podcast, that the concept of, being financially supportive, for example, right now, so we now will be able to have a car, and my parents, who have, been very hesitant to come because of the recent crisis here in the Middle East, and with all the different conflicts and things going on, my mother was very worried, about coming. So another factor is that because we're now financially able to, thank God, to be able to have a car. And for me, all these things are risks, like I'm not exactly rolling in it. They're working in the world of Amunah and booking artists who are more spiritually focused. It's not like, big money. And especially now with everything that's gone on this last year and a half, it's been a challenging time period. But I've seen that by doing the right thing in relationships, and this is a really important point, and it ties into my parents coming, because we are now able to provide them the transport, get them around, honor them in that way that we weren't able to in the past. And that's a step forward. A lot of people say, oh yeah, I did this, 20 years ago or whatever, when I first was able to. But, everybody in their own time. Me personally, I love not driving. I've got so much going on, thank God, with my phones and other things, that I don't have time to sit behind a wheel and, sit in traffic or whatever. And I prefer the exercise of walking around Jerusalem and getting to where I need to go when I need to by other forms of transport. So that's my personal situation with cars. But for my wife, she's really, stepped up a level, and she's also going to use it to be a volunteer for MADA as well, which she's organising right now, to be able to be part of the, help support system here in Israel, and be able to be someone who can help save lives and assist people in health risk situations. Amazing thing. Magen David Adam is an organisation which my grandma back in the day was a chairman on a board in England, helping fundraise for them. So it's divine providence that the only course in many, many years came out now. And that's also for me now. I have to pay for that as well. But I know that by being supportive to my wife, and she's also made a choice to put her exercise teaching on pause right now to do all these amazing things. And, I'm being supportive as a husband, being financially able somehow or another, that by doing those things, I will have what I need to support. That's the point, that by making the right choices and being supportive to the other person, you will have what you need to do that. Because anything that's needed, really, truly, that you really work through as a relationship, and you've really understood on a deep level, you need to do this, you need this thing, you need a car, you need a house, you need all these different things that people need, that if it's coming from a true deep place and not just from, being over excessive or living a lifestyle for the sake of showing off or whatever, but from a true place, a sincere place of amazing things like volunteering for an ambulance group and helping them, heal people, or you can be able to have a car to be able to do mitzvahs, to be able to get around, to do positive deeds with your car, and to be able to feel more, at peace, with yourself. And so you don't have to always be on the public transport. For some people, that's very difficult, so they need to have a car. And, all these different reasons are coming from a deep place. If that is the reason, that it's a deep, true thing, so then there's no reason why you won't have the ability to pay for it. Meaning it just doesn't make sense in a spiritual way, the scientific understanding of how spirituality and how divine influence and shefa, abundance, comes into the world. So a person's panasa, their financial situation, is dependent on their emunah, on their belief, and their ability to create vessels in this world. So these are spiritual concepts, but the idea is basically that by making a vessel, by making that reality of being a giver and kind, you will have the funds and the ability to do it. And I've lived here in Israel, and as I said, like a lot of my jobs have been in the educational world or non-profit. I did work for corporate for a while, but thank God I shifted back to non-profit. It's been much more healthy for me, and also working as a booking agent, which is more profit, but it's been for artists who are more meaningful and fit my brand of United Souls, and working with people who are inspiring, like Nissim Black. He just put up a post of how much weight he lost, and all these amazing things that he's doing on his journey, and all the other artists I work with like Yosef Daniel and his journey. And then there's a long list of all the people that come to the studio that I've been working with, like David Weinberg this week, and please God, we keep bringing in special people. Mela Cohn was just here. It was very inspiring to have the opportunity to work with these personalities. So then Hashem will give you, or God will give you and give me and give everyone who's involved in such special things, the financial ability to continue these important projects for the general good of humanity, but also to be there on a supportive level for relationship flow, for our intimacy. And how does this connect to intimacy? So it's very important we go to that next point. And I apologize again about the sounds, but there's always a lot of building going on in Israel, which is a good thing. It's representative of growth. And the noise, where there's noise, it's an important point for relationships. There's building, there's growth. So why this affects intimacy? Because when a man, for example, who wants to be a giver and is able to be a giver in the way he approaches his relationship, then a lot of the tension, a lot of the stress, a lot of the negativity that comes up in relationships will go, won't be there anymore, and will actually be transformed into a lot of love, dedication, a lot of positive aspects. And that often is affected by the financial approach. So if you approach with kindness, you approach with giving, and I've always said this to my wife, whenever she really wants something, she should pray for it and put it out there. Like, aim for, try make that happen, and see and allow the divine abundance to come to that thing that she's wanting. And it's always taken place, because you leave the door open, you build the vessel, you don't close it with stinginess or lack of emunah, or lack of belief, lack of feelings, all the lacks. You rather allow the abundance mindset to enter into your relationship. So then I've always seen, thank God, with a lot of appreciation to our Creator, that it's always come together. And therefore, when you now are in an intimate situation where you're connecting, and you don't have that stress, you're not thinking about the business deal, you're not worrying because you've handed it over to a higher force. You know that the creator of the world is the one who's going to provide for you, and you don't have to be controlling and overly controlling of the relationship. That, what does she buy? What does she this? What does she that? You have trust. You build trust in a relationship, and a relationship that has financial support is able to then have intimacy in a full, sincere way. And I think that makes sense if everyone would look at their own relationships and see how a lot of the tension comes from financial stress, and a lot of it could be alleviated with just a matter of change of mindset and allowing the divine abundance to enter into the relationship, so you have everything you need, that you really need, and it will be there and beautiful. So I'm wishing everybody, thank God, a wonderful Shabbos, and we're going to enjoy our trip tomorrow to the beach. Hopefully we'll get there and back safely, and things will, security-wise, will continue to be good here in the Holy Land. That will have the protection, the divine protection, and all these tragedies and difficult things that have happened recently will stop happening, and only good things will take place. People will understand the lessons they need to learn, and will be blessed with abundance and goodness, and we'll have a wonderful relationship flow together. Please share yours, and looking forward to continue this intimacy series in a more developed level as we go onwards together with the flow of love and connection. Amen.